Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Legacy of the Wizard, brought to us by Falcom. Legacy of the Wizard, or Dragon Slayer 4, the Drasle family, is one of the most unique adventure games available for the Nintendo Entertainment System. One of those games where it's very hard to complete it without knowing where to go or having a map to help you out. Legacy of the Wizard ends up still being a very fun game, great soundtrack, and great overall experience. In Legacy of the Wizard, we play as a family of 5, a mother, daughter, brother, father, and pet. Our goal is to collect 4 different crowns, as well as the Dragon Slayer sword, in order to take out the evil dragon. Each of the family members has a different goal, 4 of which are supposed to collect the crowns, while the 5th and final one collects the sword and takes out the dragon. To start off the game, we're going to be playing as the daughter, Lil. With her to start off the game, we're going to be collecting a few items so that we can get through the game easier. You start off the game outside their house after you select their character. When you walk over to the left, you'll see a ladder heading down. Heading down leads us into the vast dungeon. The top of the screen is your status screen. Now this can be a little bit confusing at first. You have 2 different bars set up. The blue one is your individual, your ones column of health, whereas the red bar above it is actually like your 10 column. Once you use all the blues, you lose one of the reds. The magic meter next to that, counting the same way, is the amount of attack you have left. Each time you use an attack, you lose one of the blues in the magic meter. If you run out, you unfortunately won't be able to attack any of the enemies. The 2 next to that is your keys and your gold. The gold is going to be needed to collect and buy certain items through the shops. The keys are going to be needed to unlock different locks throughout the game, and we're going to need a ton of these keys throughout the run. There's actually going to be a specific time where I'll actually have to grind to collect these keys. I will be skipping ahead, but you're actually going to be needing to spend probably 20 or 30 minutes collecting keys there. There is a little bit of health as far as the keys and gold as well as the other items go, as you can find certain treasure chests throughout the game which will contain like a big version of that, giving you instantly a good amount of gold or a good amount of keys. The first treasure that we're grabbing on this screen is actually one that gives us a good amount of gold right away, pretty much filling up our goal all the way to max. You may have saw I also picked up a scroll there. Scroll is just one of the many different items that can drop from the enemies throughout the game. The scroll speeds up your character and allows them to jump vastly. So with Lil, who's able to actually jump the best throughout the game, this massively increases her ability to go through the game rather quickly for a few minutes. Item drops throughout the game can be a little bit confusing as well as troublesome. When you destroy an enemy, they drop a random item. However, it's not exactly as random as you would expect it to be. Based on the amount of magic, life, keys, or gold that you have, different items drop more frequently. For example, after you buy an item or go to one of the inns throughout the game and use some gold, you'll usually end up finding some gold from some enemy drops for the next few minutes after that. When you're low on magic, you'll be finding a lot more magic potions to increase your magic. Same goes when you're low on health. The keys, however, are probably the hardest to gauge as they seem to drop completely randomly. Being the most important item in the keys, this can end up being very frustrating later on when all you need is a key, but all the enemies keep dropping is either health or magic. Our goal in the game is to destroy the evil dragon Kiwa, who is actually entrapped in a painting, which is over to the left of where we are right now. Our goal is to collect 4 crowns, which will allow us to actually get the Dragon Slayer sword, which will actually allow us to defeat Kilo. Once you have the Dragon Slayer, Kilo will actually come to life and you'll actually be able to battle it. Unfortunately, there's really no text or dialogue throughout the game to really tell you about the story, or really to even inform you on where you're supposed to be going. So that's one of the reasons why the game can be very difficult, especially if you don't know where to go. Throughout the giant labyrinth that is this whole dungeon, there's different inns as well as shops. All the shops contain different items, which is actually all the items you actually can find in chests as well. There's going to be a few that we will buy, but overall we'll be finding a lot of the items throughout the different chests in the game. Also, stopping by the inn not only will allow us to replenish our health as well as our magic, it'll also allow us to get to the item selection screen to change our inventory. You may have noticed a few seconds ago I did something kind of weird. If you've never played the game and you're not familiar with the mechanics, you may not be exactly sure what was going on. With the jumping and walking throughout the game, you can actually land on top of enemies and use them to catapult yourself up to higher platforms, and I'll be doing this several times throughout the game. Enemies walking along different paths like on the ceiling, as well as when they're coming back in bubble form, you can actually jump up and kind of attach yourself to them, using them to kind of walk around and climb on them. Using this, you'll actually be able to catapult yourself up to other platforms and bypass certain areas. Down here, we grabbed our first real treasure item of the game, the wings. Now, the wings aren't used for Lil, they're actually going to be used for the mother. Mayna will use the wings in order to kind of just float up. When you have the wings attached, you can just hold the up button and you'll travel north throughout the game. Right here, using Lil, wait for that rock to come over to the left side of the screen when it's going towards the gap. Jump on top of it and you'll be able to jump up over to this area. Over here, we collect our next item of the game, the magic wand. We really won't be using that item a whole lot throughout the game. One real trick to help you out throughout the game is also that spikes can hurt you if you're holding up on them when you land on them. You can actually then use spikes just as a normal platform to get up to different areas. Use this pink golem guy in order to get up here and enter this shop to buy the matok. We'll be using that item to actually break blocks throughout the game as Lil. Up here, we use our key in order to open up the lock, but don't go through there yet. Instead, head back over here and enter the inn, use your money at the inn in order to get to the item selection screen as well as replenish health and magic. In the item selection screen, we're going to select the matok because we need it in order to destroy blocks with her. Now head back over to the left where we just opened up that lock. A few of the other items though that you can get from enemies, as you've probably seen by now, are the poison jars. Now those will instantly hurt you a good deal every time you collect one, as well as the crosses. Finding a cross will actually defeat every enemy currently on screen. The area below this, I had to collect a couple of keys that you need in order to get through this room. Later on, I'm going to be collecting a lot of keys at one time, so I won't grind too much when it comes to collecting keys during the earlier parts of the run. Over here, we grab this treasure chest for the spiked shoes. Now, the spiked shoes, when you have them equipped in your inventory, what they allow you to do is when you jump on top of an enemy, it's like hitting them with your magic several times. It'll instantly defeat them. So this will help you a great deal, especially if you fall from a few levels above and land on top of enemies, they'll instantly be killed, and you can get a good amount of items that way. Use your matok to destroy some of the items and get up to this area. When you jump up here, you can see some of the previous area that we've already explored. We have to work our way over to the left here, and this can get very annoying because an enemy here we need in order to get up to the side over here. That's the snake enemy. Sometimes you may have to wait for a long time for that snake enemy to come over to where you are so that you can use it in order to get up here to get to the treasure chest that contains a crystal. The crystal allows you, no matter where you are in the dungeon, to instantly teleport out of the dungeon. We'll be using a few of these during the course of the game. Getting one now because we'll actually be using it in just a little bit to get Lil out of the dungeon, instead of having to work our way all the way back to the beginning of the dungeon and going out that way. With the items that we've collected, stop by the inn, use up your 10 gold that you have in order to get back to the item selection screen and refilling our magic that we really need. In here, collect the crystal. From here, we're heading backwards to get back into that large room with the painting of that dragon that we have to kill. We're going to be working our way to the opposite side of the room for now. Over here, break the block and start heading up north. Grabbing this chest will give you one of the bigger scrolls. This will allow you to stay in scroll form for a little bit longer than usual. Over here, drop down and grab the chest over to the left, which will give you the crossbow item. Once you have the crossbow, use the crystal to get out of the dungeon and head back to the house. Now we're going to be switching characters and going over to Pooi, the pet. Also, at the character selection screen, you'll see two other characters. Drasle, the grandmother, who you can't play as, but she's the one who gives you your passwords in the game. And then there's Drasle, the grandfather. He's actually the wizard who actually sealed the dragon inside of the painting. What he does is he allows you to actually input your passwords. Pooi is probably one of the funnest characters to just mess around with. And early on in the game, if you want to, instead of going where I'm going to go to grind for keys and such, picking Pooi is a good character to actually grind up some items. Because, as you're noticing, he doesn't get hurt by most enemies throughout the game. He doesn't have a very good jump, but his magic ends up working pretty well, and since he can't get hurt, this will allow you to really destroy a lot of enemies without having to refill your energy. When you're down here, you can see the treasure chest that we're trying to get to. Work your way over to the left, defeating the enemies as you go by, collecting any keys or gold, of course, that we find. Jump on top of the rock formation and walk over a little bit and you'll be able to fall through, getting the glove. The glove is actually used for Zen, the father of the game. It allows him to actually move blocks throughout the game instead of destroying them. That's a large part of his part of the dungeon, and you're going to have to get used to that later on. We're now heading back to that first screen of the dungeon as Pooi. If you've used up a lot of magic or health, usually I like to stop back at the house real quick as Pooi to replenish that instead of actually having to stop by an inn and use up gold.